Me and Gopnik were just talking about, you know how sometimes you go into an enclosed space, an elevator or something, or a bus, a warm bus, and you just smell like man musk. It's just.
Yeah.
I remember there's this stupid meme, the boy smell meme, which I didn't get. The only reason I know about it is because of the people making fun of it. What was your take on man musk? You go ahead.
I don't know, like everybody's now like all the vegans and like lactose tolerant and tolerant people, I don't know, whatever the fuck, are saying that deodorants are apparently extremely unhealthy and toxic. And the reason we smell bad is because we got our armpits used to having to fight the deodorant all the time and shit. So if we just stop using the deodorant for 2 months, we were gonna stop smelling. But you gotta go through a month of smelling really bad before it gets to that point. But as you can already hear from your doctor reaction, like just now, so, like everybody around me smelling, like on average, everybody's smelling more. So now I always discriminate, like absolutely always based on people's aesthetics when I'm in public transport. And I used to, try and stay away from, the guy who's obviously coming back from a construction site. But now if I see a fucking hipster, anybody fucking,
you're like, this motherfucker's...
Exactly. Yeah. If they're wearing Dr. Martens boots, dude, which I wear as well, but I see a motherfucker with Dr. Martens, that piece of shit ain't using fucking deodorant. I'm walking to the other side of that goddamn train. I don't know what's up with these.
Touring motherfuckers. Yeah. Oh my god. Dude, I remember once... Oh, dude, when I was getting my driver's license, this was many years back now. I remember there was a, what's it called, like, one of those transport cars, like for furniture and shit like that.
Yeah.
And I remember the guy, this dirty motherfucker coming out of the car, and he was barefoot driving the car. He put it into park and got out of the car still barefoot. And I remember seeing his feet, and it was like, do you know when you're like cooking onion or tomato on a grill, and then you accidentally leave it too long, so you lift it and it's just black on the bottom, but then it gets red? That's what his fucking feet look like.
Shit. Hard worker.
Oh my god. Yeah, I guess.
That's what I imagine the armpits of these fucking hipsters looking like at this point, because they're not using deodorant at all. But I did always notice like a direct correlation between, obviously this is cliche, but lifestyle and how my armpits smell. The healthier I am, the chiller the smell is. When I was vegetarian for 5-6 years, like at one point my shit literally stopped smelling bad. Like it was just fine. I shit like
it's fats. It's a lot of animal fats mostly. If you ever had, there's something called steatorrhea, which is basically your poop having a lot more oil content or like fatty content than it's supposed to, for a variety of reasons. But if you've ever had the displeasure of smelling that, my god. I remember one time there was a patient who was in the surgical ward, and he shit himself on the surgical. It was an emergency, so that's why he was having a bleed, so we had to stop it, and he was still awake and everything, and in the middle of all the commotion he shit himself. And this was a big fucking dude, so it was a giant, a ridiculous amount. It's the size of your microphone, probably. Actually, no, it's my microphone's huge. You probably have one of those nice fancy ones that JT recommended. What is the best way I could? It was the size of a brick. That's about a regular brick.
But
that's
thick.
How much
it was
came
a
out
thick,
of this
strong
guy.
boy, or it was like liquidy and shit.
Yeah, dude, it was fucking
solid, like a brick.
Fucking, like fucking, what's it called, the squash. That's what he pushed out of himself. And I remember, the smell permeated the fucking hall, and I remember going over to get like the disinfectant alcohol and soaking a cotton with it, and then putting it underneath my mask, under my nose. That's the only way that I could fucking continue doing my work. Oh my god.
That reminds me of how one of my friends tried to convince his girlfriend into doing anal, and then she was like, "No, it's gonna hurt. It probably doesn't feel good." And this stupid fucker is like, "I take a shit every day, and it feels pretty great." Imagine if you could feel that for a longer interval. Obviously, this guy to this day has not had anal. I would have replied to him, "Why don't you then try anal as well, my friend?"
Hey, exactly right. How about he volunteers? Let her go to town, and then we see how much he likes it.
Probably you doctors are like anti-anal or something. I'm guessing. The sphincter is gonna open up. Oh, you could get bacteria into urethra. Ooh. Right.
I mean, not only. You're the person inserting is not the one that I'm too worried about. It's the person being inserted into.
I guess.
Incontinence is not fun.
I have no idea how people used to do it.
I mean,
Two things that confused me about
but
anal. People did like do it casually and just not casual, but like spontaneously. Like what the fuck? And number two,
these
like
people are animals.
throughout the millennia, I guess it was
fucking
always sodomy. I don't think it was like nobody wanted to do it or whatever the fuck, because they didn't know how to clean that fucking shit. Like when was the first time, and what was it that thing called? Enema invented. Though you could arguably just like take a bottle, shove it up your ass, pour water in it, and then poop out the water, and it's kind of clean. But I don't know.
Let's see. The Complete History of Anal Sex, Part 1. Let's see. The psychology of anal sex. Oh my god, read the full story with a free account.
Gotta
Fuck
pay
you.
to talk
I'm
about
not
it.
doing
But
this.
speaking of studying, I don't want people to, especially people eating while listening to this, to die. Speaking of studying, that reminded me. What classes did you actually suck at in school? I don't think we ever talked about it. Math, I'm guessing. I mean, you went to med school after all.
I fucking hated math, actually. And I realized at the end it wasn't because of, it's not that I couldn't do it, it's that I, for some reason, just disliked the concept.
Oh, well, only math,
I
can't.
disliked
all of math.
Yeah. I have such a strong, like, when the fuck am I going to use this
type of a guy,
approach to all schooling? And if it didn't personally interest me, then that would go into overdrive. So math was definitely one of those things. Physics.
I'm the opposite. I liked
chemistry.
physics, but year 3 and 4 in school, in high school, I think I had like all A pluses, like all A's, and then I had a D minus, like barely passing math and chemistry. Chemistry, like there was a lot of chemistry in chemistry, meaning it literally made me fall asleep. Like I don't know if they like opened some gas valve while that lady was teaching, but I just cheated my way through it, and I barely cheated my way to a D minus. Yeah. You know, when you lack knowledge about a subject to such an extent that even when you're looking at the guy next to you's paper, you don't understand shit, right? You don't even know where to write to this shit. That was chemistry for me, like, but we got through it. Both of us went to pursue studies afterwards, which do not require any of those, even though, like, I did a lot of economics. But in economics, it's exactly, I had the same problem. I'm like, but I have the same problem. How can I ever apply this, etc., etc. But in micro and macroeconomics, it kind of present you math through that prism, blah, blah, blah. And obviously, they all pretend economics is a science and so on, but it's a topic for a different day, and I smoothed it out. But I do wish sometimes that I was good at math. I don't know, it's one of the rare flexes nowadays. Like, everybody can write well because they can just insert it into fucking ChatGPT. Everybody can like do research because, again, they can just insert it into ChatGPT. When it comes to doing things with your hands, after a while most people can learn it, but math is kind of it's kind of inbuilt. By the way, is that kind of true? Do psychologists agree on this topic? Are there certain brains that are wired to be more predisposed towards, for example, being a great poet, and some other guy, does numbers or whatever math people do?
I think it is probably nature nurture shit, as with all things. You sit there and then you have some natural predisposition to being slightly better, but then you just put in a lot of effort, and that's what actually pushes you beyond. But yeah, I think with most things, actually this is my genuine belief, I think there is no subject that's difficult. It's just always a lack of motivation. I don't think you're incapable of understanding anything or doing it well even. It's just that, goddamn, if the shit isn't boring or incredibly tedious to learn, or right, anybody could play a musical instrument and get very good at it. You just have to put in the effort, right? And that's where likewise with math, likewise with medicine, for fuck's sake.
I'm terrified of you fucking people, as I note in absolutely every episode. But like, yeah, I guess everybody can be very, very decent at it, but when most things, but when we're looking at, the highest echelons of competition, that's where, both of you put in 24 hours of work every day, right? But the one that has a bit of extra, let's call it talent or knack, or, the nature part ends up winning.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's that's the beauty of being human, right? You never know what you can. You never know what you can accomplish, what you'll be good at, or much more likely what you fucking absolutely suck.
Speaking of which, what do you suck at? I can't sing. I cannot sing,
dude. I cannot. You think? First of all, don't think that this hasn't stopped me from fucking singing, but I am tone deaf to shit. But actually, what do I suck at exceptionally? I'm not very good at suing, but that's not a fucking, ooh, wow, fucking.
You're missing out, bro. What will I do when I become a grandma?
I stitch well.
I've never done that.
Well. I wonder where's the contradiction in that.
I guess because I live in the second world and you're in the third world, so you stitch things? What the fuck? Who stitches things? Don't you have H&M? Just go buy useless crap every fucking day of your life. Oh my god, I have little dirt on my shirt. At this point, I think it's literally cheaper because water is so fucking expensive now. I think it's cheaper that every time there's any dirt on my fucking underwear, I just go and buy a new pair. Speaking of which, where do they always go? Where do they always fucking go? I know we talked about this many times on this podcast, and I have many different theories. And actually, now it's expanding into a different aspect of my life. Now my forks are starting to disappear. And I'm pretty sure they're disappearing because my partner is fucking insane. I love her, God bless her soul. But when she cleans, she needs to super fast, getting everything. And when we've ordered takeout, there's probably some forks in the takeout cardboard or plastic or whatever that she throws out the spoons and forks with. That's my only explanation, except for, I don't know, the fucking gremlins coming out of the toilet and taking my silverware.
The liberals on the walls, they're reaching out.
Yeah.
No, it's we would get along. I'm also one of the I'm the type of person who finishes eating or finishes any activity and immediately I'm like, all right, it's time to clean up.
Proper, but proper. But that's I think from the majority of people. What I really hate, pisses me the fuck off, is people who as they're cooking don't clean. And how can you leave the disgusting kitchen and then sit on the table in front of it and eat while staring at the disgusting kitchen? It is absolutely measurably insane to me. Yeah, I understand you're hungry and everything and shit, but it's gonna be sitting on top of your head the entire time while you're eating. You're gonna be like, okay, after I eat, I will have to go and clean. So you can't really even dedicate yourself fully to the pleasure.
This is a complete side tangent. Do you make your bed?
Yes, always. Every morning I get up and I throw it and shit. Right. But it's easier with adult beds because, just throw the 2 sheets or whatever the fuck. For some reason, when I was a kid, it was much more difficult. At least felt more difficult. Do you make your bed?
I don't think there's anything. Yeah, on occasion. It depends on how tired I am in the morning. But I don't think there's anything I hate myself more doing than making the bed.
Really?
Because it seems like such a fruitless fucking activity.
It's just aesthetics.
I mean... I know you can extend this train of thought to other things, and then it becomes but just with your fucking bed. Do you know what I do? Maybe you're going to think this is a bit psychopathic. I like to tuck in the corners, and then, I lift my blanket off of me when I wake up in the morning, and then when I get to bed, I just kind of roll it on top of me again. So it's literally one flap that opens up to the left and then opens to the right. And when I sleep like a fucking vampire. I lay, and then I'm just in the same position for the next couple of hours. I just rise.
I would have presumed you're literally a fucking robot, not a human. So it was super expected for you to sleep like one. A vampiric, Leninistic, cute little robot. Hello everyone and welcome to yet another episode of the Program. Today we will be continuing our episodic series of the most original show ever created in the history of man, Send News, where we basically sit down and read through some news and comment on them. If you want some more focused news, we have another project called First Thought, which you can find in the description, where you can get news basically 2 to 3 times a week, be updated on everything that you need to be updated on from a very biased left-wing perspective, and not waste your time reading through countless pages of propaganda. So let's get this started.
Only the good kind of propaganda.
Only the good kind. Only our propaganda, but unironically, our propaganda.
Exactly propaganda. Right. No, generally.
Speaking of which, let's get this started with Hakim's first story. Please enlighten me, Habibi.
All right, Hat. Look, there's this beautiful development that capitalism has brought with industrialization and urbanization, of course, and that is the systematic decline in life expectancy.
Who wants to live in capitalism anyway? Sorry, please.
Yeah, exactly. You know how like every few years they add another zero to the debt counter of the U.S.
Yeah.
which by the way is a fucking. If the Soviet Union did this, it would be one of those like some shitty bald fucking sexless dude who would be in the Soviet Union that add the zero, and he'd make a fucking face and it would have 13 million views, but because it happens in the US it's just it's just a regular part of everyday life. Anyways, this is something to add to the victims of capitalism, excuse me, check mark. You add the little extra zero because rising levels of air pollution, just in generally, have been known to reduce life expectancy, but a directed study of this hadn't been done until very recently. There's this air quality index report that's released by the Energy Policy Institute of the University of Chicago. And this one found, very interestingly, that if you're unaware, one of the most polluted areas in the world is the subcontinent, the Asian subcontinent. So India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, this area. Specifically India, though. Mm-hmm. India, I think, accounts for nearly 60% of all increase in world pollution since the past 10 years. And they've measured air quality in different areas across the subcontinent, and they found that compared to, like a decline of just a few months in North America because of pollution, air level pollution, in the Asian subcontinent, it's between 3 and 7 years that the general decline is. So what that means is living in these areas, because of having such huge amounts of air pollution that is way outside of what the World Health Organization allows or recommends, people are, on average, per person, living several years shorter than they, or dying several years earlier than they should be. And if you were to average this out and then compile all the individual people, then this is billions of life years, right? Yeah. This is a ridiculous amount of labor and education and potential scientific output. Like, it is such a ridiculous amount of human output that is reduced. And of course, by the way, they don't mention the health issues that are related to this. People don't just drop. Aren't just healthy and they drop dead. They have several years of illness or just reduced output, and then they die. And this is just another one of those beautiful things. I like how this is, by the way, reported by Reuters, and they specifically go on to mention that China, meanwhile, has worked to reduce pollution by 42.3% between 2013 and 2021. The report said, highlighting the need for governments to generate blah, blah, the rest of the... Right, but essentially, they're essentially saying, with countries with enough political will, hint, nudge, China, can actually reduce the necessary amounts of pollution. And like the kind of point is very tired, but I'll repeat it regardless, is capitalism is a system that's predicated on infinite growth on a finite planet. It only is profit-seeking and only wants profit. And as a result, it doesn't care about health. It doesn't care about healthcare outcomes. It doesn't care about pollution. In fact, it will try to skirt those legislation against that, or avoid safety, like workplace rules, or try to find whichever way as to maximize profit to the detriment of those things if you can get away with it, which is especially the case in third world or overexploited countries with a comparative bourgeoisie, like ruling class or rulership. So it's completely unsurprising that this would be a new man-made horror behind a comprehension generated by capitalism.
We're so surprised. It's so fucking weird. Everything is run by the free market and the profit motive, and all of a sudden people are like just burning plastic and coal and they're dumping and tires and they're dumping millions of tons of junk in developing countries, literally overfilling them with shit. Or like, if you want like a very direct example, the particular city where I'm at, even though I'm not a big fan of the socialist experiment here, but still, up until 1989 in the capital city, you had certain legislation when it comes to where you can build high-rises, where you can build buildings, because the fucking town is obviously surrounded by mountains, and what has to flow through it? Maybe something called air, right? And after that particular government, which had extremely sensible laws when it comes to this, fell, what did the free market start doing? Obviously, start building a shit ton of fancy buildings on these higher parts of the city because, you get a nicer view, it's a nice part of the city, etc., etc. It's not literally the builder's fault, it's the market's fault, it's the system's fault for motivating them to build there. After, obviously, there not being any particular set standards which would have stopped them in the first place. And now it's become one of the most polluted fucking cities in the world during winter because, obviously, standard pollution of the city, number one. Number two, a lot of trash being imported from the west so that the local guys burn the trash instead of coal when generating heat for the apartments in order for them to then sell this coal on the free market to northern or western countries, as well as incredibly poor people literally burning tires because they have no other fucking and old clothes because they have no other means of sustaining body heat during the winter. But trying to reintroduce any sort of law which, for example, would forbid them to forbid real estate moguls from building in particular areas would be seen by today's definition of what a democracy is. I love when they throw that term around as a direct infringement of one of the so-called key democratic values, which is the free market. It's this is tired, etc., but there is no direct correlation. There's no direct. It's not compatible. There is absolutely no compatibility between creating a sustainable environment for us and our children and the future of the white race. Oh shit, different podcast. But but I'm kidding, obviously. And the free market system. Even growth increase, which could potentially be relatively possible and sustainable, is not possible under the current model because it's not driven by the increase of life standards, the increase of quality of life, but just piling pockets higher and higher. And if there is I don't know how anybody can at this point argue in favor of like a pure free market, etc., because it's like doing the number one thing, like literally killing the planet that we will no longer be able to live in if it continues this way. Like you cannot counter argue this. That's why I'm, back in the day they used to say, but if it's a private run hospital versus a state run hospital, this is argumentation. You sit there, you debate, etc. But when you're sitting here and you're seeing literal death coming to the doorsteps of not just you, fuck you, but of your potential fucking children and grandchildren, and you still support this, you're in a cult. You're in nothing except a cult.
You're completely right, and this this is a thing that is never questioning the ideological premises of capitalist society just in general is not done because it's so reinforced at the base level of social reproduction in schools, on television, and everything. So when you even begin to kind of criticize or even just reflect on these things, you end up with the usual reaction of either just complete rejection, you're a fucking tanky, red fast, blah blah blah, this nonsense, or you end up with but it's the best. What's it called? It's the best system that we have. Well, it is mind rot, and it's the base of it is just these ideas that go unquestioned.
Yeah. If there was a system where, I don't know, every morning before going to work we needed to go and burn down a tree, like absolutely everybody every day has to wake up in the morning and go burn down a tree, or I don't know, put a bullet in a pig or a dog, nobody would fucking do it. But when we all as a community participate in something that's indirectly doing exactly that to the only planet that is hospitable for us right now, it's okay. It's typical fucking liberal individualism applied on a larger scale. And then we wonder why it's so easy for them to market individual responsibility to us and what were they, paper straws. Did paper straws come to Iraq, or you guys still have some fucking balls? Because they came to the Balkans. They came to everybody fucking paper strawing.
No, don't worry. We're still based. We'd kill the turtles.
How will the turtles do their coke now? That I'm fed.
Yeah, exactly right. And do I need to remind you that apparently, supposedly, Iraqi cocaine is the best cocaine on earth? I don't know where you'd even begin to look for it. I've told you this so many times before. I got a haircut in a nondescript country from your area, and this man specifically told me, after asking me where I was from, I was like, I'm from Iraq, and then he retorted, oh yeah, oh my god, you guys have the best coke. And I was like, oh wow, and then he began telling me about other good drugs from Iraq, and I was like, okay, and he looked like the kind of guy who would know. So.
We are literally the same. Wasn't there like a Serbian a fucking guy that was during Ottoman times that was in charge of Baghdad or something? Brother and sister nations, man. Brother and sister nations. We just chose a slightly different religion, and you guys are more handsome, but we're taller, so that's basically the only difference. But okay, let's move into continuous insanity with now us transporting from India over to South America's India, Argentina. Oh my god, I don't even mean that, but it was funny, so I had to say it. So, have you guys heard about this absolute joker, like unironically, from Argentina called Javier Milei? A far-right politician that's come into the limelight because he might actually win the election. Milei's unexpected success in the primary elections is attributed to his positioning as a counterpoint to the establishment political landscape and dissatisfaction with mainstream parties. He is characterized as an outspoken and unconventional candidate who aligns with far-right ideology, conspiracy theories, and is basically a total fucking ANCAP freak. Drawing comparisons to figures like Trump and Bolsonaro, Milei's approach is noted to be marked by social awkwardness and extreme views, including advocating for the sale of organs in the free market and something like the abolition of the Argentinian central bank, and so on and so on. The broader context of Argentina's economic crisis is why most of this is happening. If you want more details, I think Ben and Penada recently made a decent video on this, with the failure of previous governments to address current and, at this point, decade and a half of ongoing issues. This has paved the way for third-party candidates like Milei to gain traction. His rise is also a result of media influence, as he has been given significant airtime to promote his unconventional, to say the least, ideas, and his image has been cultivated by both right-wing and Peronist media outlets. To me, it'd be hella sus if he wasn't receiving straight up connected directly to my veins Yankee dollars for his campaigns, because I don't know why more people don't know this, but he unironically wants to remove the Argentinian currency and just use the US dollar.
This guy's a fucking idiot.
He wants to and which would imply even he wants to remove Argentina's federal bank, but that would just mean that then Argentina's economy depends on the U.S. Fed and the U.S. Central Bank, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So this man has single-handedly, in my opinion, invented a new way a country can literally conquer another country. Yeah, exactly, but on like a state level. But he invented a new way of how to take over a different country by one without actually firing any bullet. And I know we've already been using IMF and the World Bank for this for so long, but this guy wants to connect, directly America's cock to his country's reproductive organ. So, very interesting fucking fella.
Look, everybody needs to just look up a picture of this guy just to see his face and just to see his ridiculous fucking hair. This guy was part of a, what's it called? Like some dog shit fucking band, rock band or something. And he's still stuck in that cringe. He feels like, if he didn't get into politics, he feels like he would be a Facebook mom. Like, that's the vibe you get from him when you look at him.
Absolutely. I mean, he's the continuation of, Trumpian Bolsonaro aesthetics, which is just looking super fucking weird. I mean, Trump is the weirdest looking creature of all time, arguably, and this guy obviously continues this. And they always try to, show off some sort of power in their politics and some, heavy duty, I'm a man of my word. If I come to power, I will, solve everything because, I will hit the table with my arm, and all the other politicians will fall in line. And they always look like if they actually hit their hand on the table, their hand would break. Fucking soy boy to the next step. But what's more interesting here, obviously, with Bolsonaro and Trump and him, we are seeing, obviously, this is an old analysis, but as we're seeing more and more far-right figures kind of step away from the, well-kept together, typical conservative gentleman, like a Tory, a British Tory. They're stepping away from it because they are, to an extent, realizing what their, I'm sorry, I'm going to be very disrespectful, but their auditoria, but fucking, what's the word? Their voter body consists of, which is basically absolute and utter fucking imbecile Nimrods, right? So they're realizing that Nimrods wanna see an imbecile in the person that they vote for as well. They want to see this guy that just goes off on tangents and just says the crazy shit the way it is. A guy that, is relatively quirky, that is not afraid to speak his mind and so on, which is tightening the space for, and making the space smaller and smaller for classic, Tory-style conservatives, and it's working really, really well for the unwashed masses with no class consciousness, which are looking for an alternative because they themselves are also suffering, etc., etc.
Protest vote. They don't feel represented by any aspect of the current political establishment, so they just throw a vote at whatever weird outsider because it can't get any worse. Which usually people say that, but it can always get worse. As they're gonna find out quickly with this dude. Moving on. I think there's a tried and true tradition of this podcast to shit on the French, and they deserve every single bit of it. But this is much more.
What did they do this time? Actually, they're doing so much.
You couldn't help the people, the French people listening. You couldn't help the misfortune of your birth. I'm sorry.
Stop fucking listening and go start fucking training because you're soon gonna be sent to Niger to fucking kill some black people. So, but those motherfuckers look tough. So go start training because you're gonna get your ass fucking handed to you.
Oh my god! Look, there's no. I'm not even gonna make the joke.
Do it. Fuck you, do it. Fuck you, do it.
There's no underage boys to molest in Niger. I'm sorry to say, so they won't be.
Yeah, the classical French pastime.
Lord. Anyways, so if for those who are unaware, France continues in its tradition of being absolutely cringe by passing yet another law of focusing simply on the culture war to avoid the class war. A very, I guess, tried and true tactic of the French ruling elite. It's actually disappointing to see French people falling for it so often. But sometimes they don't, and sometimes they do burn shit and cause ruckus, which is good. Don't burn stuff. I'm teasing, but do cause a political ruckus of some sort. Join organizations, do actual work. Don't just go into the street and have one plaque and then go home and call it a day. Regardless, France has recently passed a ban on an article of clothing that a lot of people, Arab origin or North African origin specifically, wear, which is called abaya. It's a sort of robe, you can think of it almost. And of course, this is just another one of a very long list of laws and attempted discrimination against Arabs and particularly Muslims. Muslims are not only Arab, but one of the primary demographics that are Muslim in France happen to be Arab or of mixed Arab Berber descent. The French government decided to ban the abaya just recently, I think last week. Actually, maybe I should describe what an abaya is because most people probably don't know. The best way I can describe it is think about it as just a loose-fitting dress. That's what you can think about it as. It goes from your shoulders down to basically like a little slightly above your ankles. You can mix it with other articles of clothing, or you can wear a jacket over it, or you can do a million other things. Women
literally the greatest problem the country is facing. It is absolutely
exactly
despicable.
Right. Yeah, no, not pension reform.
Despicable. Fucking dresses. Yes.
Just in general, people who wear abayas, you'll see a huge range of color and flair and like interesting fashion developments with it, right? So it's not just like a loose article of clothing. Now, anybody listening to this who just gives it a little bit of thought would be like, hold on, you're telling me they banned a loose-fitting article of clothing which has absolutely zero religious significance aside from a vague reference to like cultural dress, which isn't even really, because there are many European cultures that have similar concepts. How do they enforce this? And that's exactly right. It's just intended to be discriminatory. Many people, both within the Senate in France, as well as like sociologists, anthropologists, lots of intelligent people actually know what they're talking about, came out and was like, this is very fucking stupid. This is very clearly carried out to discriminate against Muslims and other such populations. The Union of School Principals in France welcomed the decision. They actually supported it. That's number one. And number two, another one was given stated by the educational minister, who said, our schools are continually put under test, and over the past several months, breaches to secularity have increased considerably, in particular with pupils wearing religious attire like abayas and qamis. Abayas are loose articles of clothing. Qamis is just the Arabic word for shirt. If you really, really, really want to be pedantic, a certain type of shirt where the collar goes up to the neckline, like right up to your neck. So there's no looseness. It goes right up to your neck and hugs it. It actually looks very stylish, I think at least. You see it much more common in Gulf populations. We don't wear it so much in Iraq, for example. In North Africa, maybe people do wear it. But again, what I'm telling you is the French government passed a ban on loose articles of clothing, particularly a loose dress, essentially, and a shirt with a high collar. That's essentially what the fuck that they put the ban on. The previous Minister of Education, a guy named Pape Ndiaye, he was against banning the abaya. And he specifically went up to the French Senate and said, the abaya is not easy to define legally. It would take us to the administrative tribunal where we would lose. Of course, because if you were to actually look into it, there's another nice reference in the articles as reported by Reuters, where in some Institute of Political Studies, one expert, I guess if you want to call it that, he specifically said, in and of itself, there's no such thing as an Islamic outfit. We need to challenge that myth, which is very true. Exactly right. There's no one, like, oh, this is how Muslims dress. A lot of Muslim dress is defined by like certain concepts of modesty, which vary to different degrees in different cultures, as well as the regional cultural dress. So if you were to see a Muslim woman in Suriname and in Egypt and in Malaysia, likewise with a Muslim man, they're all going to wear three different things, even if they're like quote unquote highly conservative, if you want to even put it that way.
Yeah, different cultural context, different traditional clothes, different, like it's. But all the Muslims, they wear the same. Probably you in Iraq think all the Christians they wear the short skirt and the belly button is outside.
No, we have Christians here, Habibi.
I know, I'm fucking with. I'm overgeneralizing. It's the point of the fucking.
I know.
Son of a bitch.
I know. Habibi. Do you know my favorite part about it is the same guy, the expert from like political scientist guy. He went out of his way to also comment. He was like, how will this affect the freedom for other, like for regular women to wear what they want at schools, for example? Specifically, he says, among female high school students, there's wider fashion trends, and there are female high school students who buy long dresses and kimonos online and sometimes will come to school wearing things to that effect, essentially. Yeah. And that this ban can technically cover this. So it's such a stupid and fucking pointless thing. France has issues with the pension reform. France has issues with unemployment to an extent, particularly amongst immigrant populations or people of immigrant origin. France has issues with police violence. France has issues with wages and inflation. France has huge issues with institutional racism. And
post-colonialism, there's a war brewing, man.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, listen, no, this is not what you need to focus on. No, you need to focus on fucking...
girls are wearing.
Yeah, exactly right. Which I find incredibly, like, I bet you in the French press, there is on the next page articles denouncing like the quote-unquote morality police about what people dress in Iran or something like that. I promise you that this fucking shit exists, right? At the same time as they're trying to limit what people or control what people are wearing, and what can you do?
Absolutely no. It's a great encapsulation. This story of basically how moving attention from topics that have direct material influence on your life over to things that just trigger good old Neanderthal conservatives and completely change the complete narrative. It's tried tactic that will arguably work forever. We need to find our alternative, but that's kind of difficult when you're actually standing behind an ideology that is based in reality and not just constant dodging of bullets by pretending that what little girls wear is of importance to the fucking state. Like, absolutely fucking incredible. But moving to another piece of news, everyone's favorite anti-hero, hero, or genocidal baby eater, depending on your side in the conflict, Prigozhin seems to have died. I am not one for conspiracies, but if there ever was an absolutely perfect way to make a guy disappear this without killing them, this was it. I ain't believing shit unless I see a body. That's all I'm saying, which will now be impossible because the dude got apparently buried today, I think. But depending on when you're listening to this, on the 29th of August. Most people talk a lot about Prigo, but actually don't know much about him, so let's kind of introduce him to y'all now that he's left this world. His relationship with Putin is traced to when their paths initially crossed in 1990s in a town which at that point was changed back to the name of St. Petersburg from Leningrad during the tumultuous post-Soviet years when both men were actually based there. Prigozhin, with a criminal record, had transformed from a hot dog salesman to a restaurateur, attracting powerful figures like Putin with his upscale dining establishments and experiences all over town. As Putin's personal chef later, Prigozhin gained insight into the president's inner workings and became involved in various Kremlin tasks, extending Putin's influence beyond traditional security apparatuses. Prigozhin ventured into media after that, and then eventually the PMC world. The Wagner private military company, obviously led by him, emerged as a key player in conflicts in Ukraine, Syria, West Africa, and so on. Wagner's involvement, while initially denied by the Kremlin, was eventually acknowledged by Putin himself, though he maintained it had no official state connections. I'm talking about this current war, but also previous conflicts that they participated in. Prigozhin's tensions with the Russian military, though, escalated very intensively, as we all remember earlier this year, as he criticized their handling of operations, particularly in Ukraine. The relationship came to a head when Prigozhin openly challenged Putin's leadership and military decisions, even though he in multiple points said that this is a challenge to the current military apparatus, not necessarily the head of state. His criticism culminated in obviously a short rebellion, leading Putin to brand him officially or unofficially. Everybody is debating what he actually meant in that first interview, but branding him as a traitor. The failed revolt marked the end of their alliance, think many experts, with Prigo moving his European troops to Belarus and seemingly moving his focus to Africa, where, as we all know and have mentioned multiple times in this episode, there's something definitely brewing. So yeah, what can I tell you? He was either gonna become president or die. And in my opinion, both things still stand on the table, because nothing's easier than adding a name to a plane, blowing up the plane, and afterwards never showing, cordoning off the area, sending your cops to pick up the bodies, and saying that this dude is officially dead. Obviously, I'm sounding conspiratorial here and so on, but what truly happened we'll probably only find out 50 years in the future, when all those information vaults are opened, or I don't know, in a year where he pops up somewhere for some fucking reason. It'll be an interesting time, that is for sure. But yes, a dude, no matter what your opinion of him is, mine. I mean, he's a fucking PMC leader, not very positive, but one can say that truly a video game character. Like this dude lived a movie.
Especially Gear life.
Yeah, especially when you look at have you seen his pictures in different camouflages?
Yeah, it's fucking
pretty incredible meme. Yeah, do you see what the average image of Middle Eastern general is in the eyes of an Eastern European chef PMC leader? I was like, I'm not sure. Is this like when I saw them, I was like, this is probably like racially insensitive. What the fuck? But apparently he really wore that. Like he really wore that when he went to like meetings and shit. This wasn't him just LARPing in his studio. Very.
I mean, it was still a little bit of a LARP, but you know.
Yeah, of course.
Like, even if you're in it, even if you're like, you know, there is a little bit to... being cringe will deduct points from whatever the fuck you're doing. Whether good or bad, I think. If you're evil, but even if you're evil and cringe about it, I think it's... it takes away from the points. Like, we can't even hate you for just... much more importantly, I would like to add is Poland, which recently asked EU's top court to cancel 3 climate policies right after our lovely news about... the beautiful levels of air pollution across the world, but particularly in the subcontinent. Recently, it's been reported that Poland has filed official legal challenges trying to annul 3 European Union climate change policies. And the argument of the Polish government is that social inequality would worsen should they put these climate change policies
no, they're thinking about social inequality.
Yeah, of course. Poland, with the most progressive, you know, the vanguard of the revolution, Poland, absolutely not a reactionary power in any stretch of the imagination, has begun to care about social inequality. Well, the second is possible to threaten profits. Here's a few things that they brought. One of the policies was a law that would ban the sale of CO2 emitting cars in the EU by 2035. And here's a quote from a Polish representative or spokesperson. He said, "The contested regulation imposes excessive burdens connected with transition towards zero-emission mobility on European citizens, especially those who are less well off, as well as on the European automotive company sector." So I like how he gives one reason, which is the bullshit, you know, like flowery nonsense, the dress up, and then he gives the real reason afterwards. So the first reason is, people won't be able to afford cars. And then afterwards is, it'll affect the European automotive company sector, which specifically means, to boil this down, means it'll affect profits. If you gave a shit about people's mobility, particularly Polish people's mobility, you would invest in whatever crumbling leftover fucking socialist era public transport that you have. I mean, Poland's actually kind of decent from what I've heard, but that's because the EU's been dumping tons of money into it, and because they get to put up the little plaques, right? I don't know, have you been to EU countries and you see that? It always feels kind of fucking weird. Even the Soviet Union didn't do this shit, where you go to take a piss in a toilet and there's like a metal plaque there that says, "This shitter was provided by the European Union."
Yeah, fucking everywhere, fucking everywhere.
Oh my god, fucking hell! Your jizz rag was provided by the fucking. You know, it's just stupid.
They gotta flash, man. You gotta tag it. You gotta tag your bottle in the separate buttons.
It's funny because you see it even more often than US aid stuff, which is hilarious because US aid is an actual arm of like the State Department of trying to influence. Anyways, whatever. Another EU policy that they're trying to kind of angle against is one that is like for emission cutting targets, which they say threatens Poland's energy security. Of course, for those unaware, Poland produces around 70% of its power from coal. So then the idea would be that they wouldn't be able to transition quickly enough to renewable sorts of energy by the time that the emission cutting targets would be met. The difference being is that this is a lack of political will, not an actual inability, as with most things under capitalism.
And it's 70% is generated by coal. That means that there are some very rich coal motherfuckers in the country that lobby the Polish government. Yeah. I mean, it's like, in Russia, the oil industry is not lobbying the government. No.
But the Russians are, evil, backward Asiatic orcs. Okay, the Polish are blonde, blue-eyed Europeans. Okay, this week at least. You don't. Oh my god! And of course, the third law was a reform of the EU carbon market, which basically means less coal mining jobs and less things regarding coal just in general. And because 70% of power in Poland is from coal, that means that there are several coal-related jobs filling positions in the employment sector of Poland. So if you were to reduce coal mining jobs, then this would affect general employment, at least in a particular sector. And they say this would increase social inequality, which very interesting because had you had the political will, this is like you can set up a bureau with 15 people and they would deal with this honestly. Just allow for official like programmed retraining of people towards parallel fields. Their skills do fucking transition over, right? It's not like they become fucking toddlers because you told them they can't work in coal mining job. There's other shit that they can still do that's relevant to their work experience and relevant to their education. But again, in capitalist governments and economies, this doesn't make sense. It's like if the market doesn't have a use for you, then you just can go in the trash, right? It's fucking ridiculous. Specifically though, the Polish government wants all these 3 laws completely annulled, not changed, not reduced, not like extended deadline. They just want them completely gone. Yeah, exactly right. Despite the fact that all these laws were passed by a majority within of EU member states, whatever the fuck that counts for. But Poland the Polish representatives rebutted that these should have been passed with unanimous approval by the EU, which, by the way,
but when Poland gets a shit ton of EU money and it's never passed unanimously, that's not when they ask for unanimity.
Exactly.
Fucking make your fucking Škodas and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. Škodas are Czech and they're produced.
What? Really? I thought they're Polish. Yeah. Whatever. Make your Škodas then.
Habibi. But anyways, my favorite part. Yeah, this is the bit I want to say. Reuters went to kind of reach out to the EU office to ask, and Polish representatives, a parliament spokesperson, and nobody wanted to comment. Everybody said, declined to comment or didn't respond to requests for comments, which I find very funny because it's like, can you please cancel these? And then nobody can reach them. It's just stupid. Speaking of which, this is something that's important. There is a 17 or almost 18 billion euro EU transition fund that's specifically made to support communities that would be shifting away from fossil fuels. So retraining workers and other kind of things like that. And the biggest share of these 18 billion or 17.5 billion euros have been earmarked for Poland. And they're still bitching.
Yeah.
And it's just very clear, like, our profits will be fucking... It's not even a contrarian thing. This is, the fucked up thing is, this is an issue that affects at most like 1,000 like executives and like higher level managers, shit like that, who would be affected by this income wise, and the other people would be affected because of course the EU is incompetent when it comes to this, and I'm sure Poland is incompetent when it comes to this. The retraining of workers will not happen as it's supposed to. There will be delays. People will be out of a job. It will be a fucking mess. And these people I genuinely feel bad for. But the people who would be making the most money, who are still continuously making the most money off of this, are of course those, like you said, people lobbying the government and all that nonsense. Yeah, and it's like, go and try to fucking change a policy that affects God knows how many tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, depending on the global effect, right? Because like 48 guys in a building somewhere are going to make some less money. It's so stupid.
Absolutely. And one could argue that they know that how the EU is going to respond, and the EU's lack of response in this case gives them more political fire to then talk to their unwashed masses and tell them, you see, this is the disrespect that we receive, and foster more right-wing EU skepticism, which in return will allow Poland to continue to deregulate in the path that it has chosen quite a while ago. But speaking of deregulators and about like 1,000 people in a country that get to benefit from something, in this case we have around 10 people who can benefit for something. Did you watch the Republican debates, my man?
Dude, I couldn't. I literally died of cringe. Yeah. Okay, figuratively, I died of cringe from the Eminem. Please,
yeah.
But do tell.
It was in my opinion, it was fucking awesome. I don't know, a bunch of thumbs competing on how many of the 3 inches of Trump's wiener they can stuff in their mouth while jerking off Israel and super PACs was absolutely incredible to fucking watch. I mean, this isn't something brilliant, but the Republican Party is just a super PAC at this point, literally. My favorite moments include one guy calling another guy Chat GPT, one dude saying that the biggest problem with today's education, and dude, I wish I was kidding, the biggest problems with today's education are teachers' unions. What?
Oh my god, of course.
Because, they put themselves before the kids, whatever that's supposed to fucking mean. JD's not here to explain to me. I loved also when they got into a fight on whether they should support Ukraine or not. That was fucking beautiful. And how can we not forget Mike Pence sounding like he's about to start a Christian ISIS preaching about the evils of abortion and his devout beliefs. It was better than most cinematic experiences that we've received this year. Trust me, my friends, go give it another try. You muster through the cringe because Fox really deserves money for what they have given us. As we know, Trump, of course, did not go to the actual official debate. In my opinion, this is kind of a final victory over mainstream media news by so-called new media, if I may say so myself. Tucker, who is now apparently working with Twitter, or X, is running something called Tucker X, which literally just sounds like AI porn of his face, like having intercourse. But he had the former president come in and talk to him, hitting viewership rates higher than the debate itself, around the same time when the debate was actually running. I mean, I didn't think it would take this form, but this is the first nail out of many in the future coffins of the Foxes, MSNBCs, and CNNs and so on of the world. But yeah, this was an improvised, what if we do this, dude? It would be so cool concept between Tucker and Trump himself, and it seems to have worked pretty well. Everybody, especially the conservatives and Republicans, are making fun of everybody who participated in the debate, and I don't think there is a single doubt in most people's minds over who's winning this Republican primary. Trump boyo seems to be doing it again. We'll just see, depending on how the indictments go and so on, where the possibility there lays. But as we know, America is the land of opportunities, the land of unexpected experiences, an open-minded land where maybe we will have the first official criminal president ruling the most criminal country on the planet. That, my friends, would be quite poetic.
Beautifully delivered. Let's end on one of our favorite. Of course, that was a cackle of demented people or people suffering from Alzheimer's. But
I really want to sorry, before you start, some comments, everybody comments. Give me words, because I call people nimrods, imbeciles, because those are still kind of okay. Give me extremely offensive terms where I want to insult somebody's intelligence that are okay, that are not discriminatory and so on, or ableist. Give me some, because I really am looking for something. I'm not even making fun of ableism or whatever. It's a very important topic, etc. I just want terms that I can call people. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, Hakim. Yes.
I was just going to say, let's move on to our favorite dementia patient, Biden. Biden is poised to visit Vietnam over September sometime because he's trying to strengthen ties between the United States and Vietnam. And we'll get into why this is in just a second. But he's going to specifically meet with the General Secretary of the Vietnamese Communist Party and a bunch of other Vietnamese, top Vietnamese leaders in early September in Hanoi, which is interesting because it's he's gonna go to Alaska of all places to not celebrate, that's not the correct word, to commemorate the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, and then the next day he's gonna go, or the day prior he's gonna, I don't fucking know. Essentially, he's doing this around September 11th celebration or commemoration. I don't know. We celebrate September 11th. I think Americans commemorate, but the general point of it is, the United States is still in the middle of the pivot to Asia phase. They haven't done it. They didn't start the process soon enough, and China's a bit too powerful, so they can't be as overt in their movements as they would like to be. But all the Southeast Asia, South China Sea stuff, and the Philippines and Japanese deployments that the Americans have, or increased capacity at bases and stuff like that. All this is being also followed with attempt to kind of win over governments in the region that may have not be they're not exactly on the fence with China, but they want to bring them a little bit out of China's sphere of influence, whether for better or for worse, in those particular cases. It's never good to be in the American sphere of influence, but Vietnam has a complicated history with China because of just thousands of years of being neighbors, and of course wars that happened, and even in the socialist era when both of them were socialist countries, there's a war in the 70s between China and Vietnam. It was short-lived, but still people died, and that was unnecessary development. But regardless, the United States wants to kind of improve their relations with Vietnam and try to develop, I guess, deeper diplomatic ties in hopes of not cornering China, but essentially establishing some sort of presence. Not necessarily military, but any win in the diplomatic book for the United States right now would be a win in their fight against China. Or at least their imagined confrontation that they want to have with China. It's very clear who the warmonger is in all of this.
Yeah.
Another thing that is happening as well is a lot of Vietnamese economy, not investment per se, but an approach to improving relations on the economic front. With Vietnam. For those unaware, Vietnam was sanctioned for many, many years by the United States, and these sanctions were lifted in last week in the grand scheme of things, just a few decades ago. I think in the 90s sometimes. As a result of this, there's still kind of bad blood or a bad taste in the mouth. And now the U.S. is trying to kind of brush over their, oh yeah, we're sorry we genocided your people and try to cripple your development. But we're going to buy Vietnamese produced cars or something. Currently the biggest recipient of Vietnamese exports is the United States, but that's just because of how huge of a market it is. And who knows where this is going to go into the future. Because currently, Vietnam's relations with China are pretty decent. And Vietnam's general secretary of the Communist Party also visited China in, I think it was last year sometime. He met up with President Xi Jinping, and they also had the usual socialist solidarity kind of meetings where they just sit in front of food but don't eat it and just look at each other smiling and chatting, but you can't make out what they're doing. And the food always looks really good. And then they have a very ridiculously small amount of liquor in a glass crystal cup, and they kind of tink it together and take the tiniest sip and then put it back down. I don't get these fucking diplomatic. It looks so stupid to me.
Yeah. Leftover from 1,000 years ago.
Probably. Yeah, exactly right. The only guy who genuinely did enjoy this fucking is Brezhnev. Brezhnev probably threw that shit back. I bet drinking. I don't drink, but I bet drinking with Brezhnev would be a fucking vibe. I can imagine that dude probably has insane fucking stories.
Drinking with Brezhnev would be great. Drinking with, my brain stopped. What was the name of the guy? Oh my god.
Yeltsin?
Yeah, drinking with Yeltsin would probably be a nightmare. There's literally two types of drinkers. Yeah. There's a Brezhnev drinker and a Yeltsin drinker.
Yeah, no, fuck that shit, man. You drink it with Yeltsin. You know what? I would speed up his alcohol poisoning. That's what I would do. Thankfully, he did that himself. Speaking of weird diplomatic things, though, one of my favorite things. I'm not gonna fucking Putin is an imperialist, fucking comprador bourgeois, all the adjectives you want to fucking throw in there. Okay, comprador I don't think is exactly right, but it wouldn't exactly apply to him. But all the rest of it, okay. And there's no love for Putin on this fucking podcast. If you think so, you're a fucking idiot. You're not listening.
Yeah.
But one thing that I do find actually genuinely very cute is the diplomatic meetings between Xi Jinping and Putin, and there's always an activity.
Yeah.
They'll make a dumpling, or they're gonna. I fucking love that shit. I don't know why. It's just seeing those dudes doing shit like that, right? Or they make each other pancake. You've seen that one.
Yeah.
You've seen the one where they're outside and. Oh my god! I think that shit's fun. It's fun to see.
It is.
They're a little bit silly.
When they go to like smaller countries or people from smaller countries come to them, because for every visit they need to have some sort of event, but it's kind of rude for you to repeat the same type of event, at least in the same calendar year, with multiple heads of state that are coming to visit. So they always have like these relatively shitty experiences for smaller presidents. And I remember when Putin came to Serbia, or the Serbian or Aleksandar Vučić, the Serbian president, went to Russia, but the guy ran out of probably experiences to show heads of state. So they went to this lab where they make dogs, and they just looked at dogs for 20 minutes. It was the strangest thing. And the Serbian president didn't know what the fuck to do. He was like picking up dogs and lowering them, like, oh, yeah, and like whispering something in front of the cameras. It is always a classic when they have to figure out what the fuck to do with their hands while they're there. But at one point, I think you can get used to it. Most of the main decision making is, unironically, I think, done over email or some shit. When the actual visitations happen, it's more of like a symbol of this and that cooperation between our countries. Except when you have very, very hands-on leaders, like for example Xi and Putin, and to an extent, give credit where credit is due. Actually, Biden, where you're in a room and you tell the other guy, okay, what the fuck do we do? When your parliament isn't listening and the other guy's parliament isn't listening, so you make actual proper, not under the table, but actual deals on which you then work on for years and years to come. But that's only with that type of leadership. With most people, it's it runs through 700 circles before two countries agree on anything. And very often, I think there's this thing that presidents of big countries kind of do as favors to presidents of small countries. They go and they ask them, can you do this and this and this? Let's make this trade deal, for example. And then the guys from the small countries, the presidents unironically say, okay, but I gotta come to like Washington or Beijing or whatever, and like the whole world to see me how I'm talking sitting with the big dogs, right? And they often agree in order to sign a contract, etc., or a trade deal. And they, parade them around town, and then the guy comes back home in a small, insignificant country and starts. I'm kidding. There's no such thing as an insignificant nation or country. But he comes home and he's like, you see how well represented our country is in the world. You see where we are getting invited. Blah blah blah. And it's kind of always very fun to see these little machinations and so on. But yeah, U.S. going to Vietnam. Who would have thunk? And wrapping up with that, ladies and gentlemen and NBs, thank you for joining us for yet another episode of the program. Please check out the Patreon, because that is what puts food in our mouth. That is what gives electricity to our microphones. That is what raises the red banners behind us as we march towards the overtaking of the podcast world with revolutionary thought. And you can also get pretty cool shit like early episodes, hangout sessions with us, completely exclusive episodes, Discord communities, and so on. Thank you for all of the current supporters from the bottom of our hearts. With that being said, this has been the Program. You say it.
I'm Hakeem.
And I'm Ugopnik.
Remember to celebrate 9/11.